When he was 10, his parents told him they were proud of him. They hugged him at the gates of an elite boarding school, said they'd be back on Sunday, and they never returned. 14 years later, he saw them again, smiling in a photo, holding the daughter they replaced him with. Please stay with me as I tell you his story, every brutal detail. And if this makes you feel anything, please subscribe, like, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. This isn't just a story, it's what betrayal looks like. Landon was just a boy when his parents left him at Brookridge Academy, a top boarding school in the countryside. They hugged him tightly, told him how proud they were, and promised to pick him up on Sunday. He believed them. Sunday came, but they didn't. At first he thought maybe they were just late, but then days passed, then weeks, then months. Still, no calls, no letters, nothing. At the school, the staff assumed maybe Landon's parents were just busy or careless. They never imagined they had actually abandoned him. Landon waited by the school gates every Sunday. He told himself over and over, they'll come. They promised. When Landon turned 13, he overheard something that broke him. Two staff members were talking quietly in the hallway. One of them said, his tuition was only paid for 1 year, in cash. They never renewed. That's when Landon realized the truth. His parents hadn't just forgotten about him. They had planned this. They left him behind on purpose. Soon after, the school expelled him. He had no home to go to, no family to call. He sat in the front office for 3 whole days, hoping someone would walk through the doors and say, come home. But no one did. Social workers came. They took him away, and as the school gates closed behind him, Landon stared out the window, feeling like a piece of him had been shut away forever. His childhood ended right there. He never cried that day. He just sat quietly, holding his small duffel bag, trying not to feel anything, because feelings hurt. And in his world, no one came back for you, and they never did. After being abandoned at boarding school, Landon was moved into the foster system. At first, he thought things might get better, that maybe someone would come for him. But instead, he was passed from one overcrowded home to another. Some houses had kind people, some didn't. Most just had too many kids and not enough care. He learned quickly that if you stayed quiet and out of the way, you didn't get hurt. Being invisible was safer than being seen. He stopped talking much. He stopped asking questions, but he never stopped checking. Every time he was placed in a new home, he checked the mailbox. Every single time. He looked for a letter with his name on it, a message from his parents, anything. But there was never anything there, not once. The truth hit slowly, like cold rain soaking through clothes. His parents didn't forget him. They didn't lose him. They left him on purpose. They chose to disappear from his life completely. One day, when he was about 15, he sat in the corner of a caseworker's office, waiting for another transfer. The woman on the phone spoke casually, like he wasn't even in the room. No, the parents said he was placed with some distant relatives in Oregon, probably a paperwork error. She laughed a little. That one sentence hit him harder than anything ever had. They had lied. They knew exactly where he was. They told someone he was placed with family, even though he had been tossed into the system like trash. It wasn't a mistake. It was a cover-up, proof that they had chosen to forget him and didn't want to be found. That night, something shifted in Landon. The sadness in him began to turn into something darker, something sharper. It was no longer about hoping they'd return. He didn't want hugs. He didn't want apologies. He didn't even want answers anymore. He wanted to find them and make them feel the same kind of hurt they gave him. They started a new life while he was being passed around like a lost suitcase. They erased him like he never existed, but he hadn't forgotten. He couldn't. From that day on, it became his mission, not to reunite, but to make them remember, to destroy the perfect lie they built, because some scars don't fade, some kids don't forgive. And Landon? He wasn't a lost boy anymore. He was just getting started. At 18, Landon officially let go of the boy his parents had abandoned. He went to the courthouse alone and changed his name. No family, no ceremony, just a quiet signature that erased everything they had given him, including his last name. It didn't erase the pain, but it gave him a little control. It was the first thing he'd chosen for himself. College wasn't easy. He got in on a scholarship, barely enough to cover tuition. He worked nights at a diner, washed dishes, restocked shelves, anything he could find. For a while, he lived in his car, sleeping in campus parking lots and showering in the gym. He never asked for help, not once. Trust was something he had learned to live without. But even as he struggled to survive, he was always watching, learning. He stayed quiet in class but paid attention to everything. He studied more than just textbooks. In his free time, he taught himself how to dig for information. He learned OSINT, open source intelligence, how to trace names, search business records, scan old property databases, and scrape social media trails. He didn't talk about it, but every spare moment went into the same goal, finding the parents who vanished. Not for closure, for truth, for justice, for revenge. Years passed. He grew sharper, stronger, more patient. He knew how to stay invisible, how to play the long game. Then one night, while scanning old business filings from a laptop in a coffee shop, he saw it. A small LLC renewal, filed under a name he hadn't heard in over a decade, his father's old alias. It was nothing special, a forgotten company with no activity, easy to miss, but the address on the renewal was current, recent, and it wasn't some office building. It was a house. Landon sat there for a long time, staring at the screen. Everything in him was quiet, too quiet. It was the first real lead in years, and it came from a tiny crack in their perfect, hidden life. He closed the laptop slowly and whispered to himself, "Found you." Landon was no longer the lost boy who waited at a boarding school gate. He had become someone else, carefully, deliberately, a new name, a new history, and a background stitched together with forged credentials and practiced charm. He learned how to walk with confidence, how to speak like someone who had always belonged in rooms with polished floors and soft lighting. He knew what to wear, what to say, and who to pretend to be. When he moved to the city listed in the LLC records, he didn't go in loud. He went in quiet, unnoticed, like a shadow settling in. He rented a small apartment, got a consulting job using the identity he'd built, and then he watched. His parents lived just 30 minutes away, tucked safely inside a gated community with tall trees, big windows, and trimmed lawn. From afar, their life looked like a magazine spread. Expensive cars, polite neighbors, 2 children who looked nothing like him. His father, now going by Charles, ran a boutique investment firm. His mother, Lauren, was even more visible. She was a lifestyle influencer now. Hundreds of posts, perfect angles, warm filters. She gave parenting tips, shared lunchbox ideas, posted videos of her new family laughing under fairy lights and picnic tents. But one photo made Landon stop cold. It was just another curated moment. Lauren sitting on a blanket in the park, smiling into the camera. One daughter on her lap, the other drawing with chalk. But next to her, half tucked under her arm, was something Landon hadn't seen in nearly 15 years. His childhood teddy bear, worn at the ear, the same tiny stitched patch on the leg. A bear he had cried into, clung to during storms, hidden in his backpack when they dropped him off at that school. And now, it was in her photo, like it had always belonged there. Something in him cracked. The rage that had been quiet for years began to speak. They had moved on, erased him, made a new life out of lies. And they had taken even the pieces he thought they'd left behind. He wasn't just forgotten, he was replaced. But Landon wasn't that boy anymore. He wasn't 10. He wasn't scared. He was ready. And now he had a plan. He would step into their world, not as their son, but as their reckoning. Landon got a job at a small but high-end real estate office just 5 miles from his parents' gated neighborhood. It was easy enough. His fake resume was strong, his charm disarming. In no time, he blended in. He made small talk, offered coffee runs, and soon people started trusting him. Every day, he listened. Co-workers talked, clients talked. Local gossip was currency, and he collected it carefully. He learned his parents were well loved in the community. People called them kind, generous, the sort who hosted fundraisers and sponsored school events. His mother, Lauren, was especially admired, elegant, calm, always smiling. His father, Charles, was respected, even called a pillar of the neighborhood. But the lie that hit hardest came from a co-worker who casually said, "It's so tragic. Their first child died in a car crash while they were living abroad, but they've built a beautiful life since." Landon said nothing. He smiled like everyone else. But inside, his rage tightened. Dead. They told people he was dead. He went home and created a fake Instagram account. A believable teenage boy. Sports, humor, selfies with classmates. Then he searched for his parents' teenage daughter. The the one he'd seen in photos. Her name was Emily. He sent her a message, just a casual hello, pretending they went to nearby schools. She replied, friendly, curious. They talked often, joking about school, teachers, movies. But what unsettled him wasn't her words. It was her way. She had a nervous tic he recognized. She touched her neck when she was unsure, just like he used to. Then one day, she sent him a silly video. In it, her sleeve slipped slightly, and he saw something small on her arm, a birthmark, the exact shape and spot as his. That wasn't coincidence. He stared at the screen for hours. It wasn't just that they left him behind. They had started over. They made a new child, shaped her to look like him, act like him. It was like they had copied and pasted a cleaner version of the son they didn't want anymore. Landon realized something deeper than abandonment had happened. He wasn't just erased. He had been replaced. And now, the game had changed. The night of the charity gala, Landon stood at the back of the ballroom, dressed in a borrowed suit, hidden in plain sight among the city's wealthy guests. His mother and father arrived exactly on time, holding hands like the perfect couple. The lights sparkled off her jewelry. She laughed softly, shaking hands, greeting guests. It was like watching strangers who wore masks made of his childhood. He waited until she excused herself from the crowd and slipped away toward the restrooms. He followed quietly, his heart pounding, every step rehearsed in his head. In the hallway, where no one was watching, he stepped in front of her. "Sorry, ma'am," he said, with a soft smile. "Do you know if this place used to be called Granfield Inn? I think I came here once when I was 10. My mum told me I could have the chocolate cake if I behaved." She paused. The smile on her face faltered just slightly, eyes flicking up to study him more closely. Still, she nodded politely. "I'm not sure, but that does sound like something a sweet mum would say." He tried again. "She also said she'd be back on Sunday, that we'd go to the lake after." "We never made it to the lake." Her hand froze on the edge of her clutch. A beat passed. "You remind me of someone," she said, voice thinner now. We thought he was sent to Canada. That was it. The lie. The one she and his father told the world. The proof she knew." His chest tightened, his hands trembled slightly, but he kept his face still. She didn't recognize him. Not really. And if she did, she pretended not to. Either way, she wasn't innocent. He gave her a quiet nod and stepped back. "Thanks anyway," he said, then turned and walked away before the pain could rise and show on his face. He didn't want tears. He wanted control. Outside, the air was sharp and cold. His jaw clenched as he watched them through the glass, laughing again, their world untouched. It wasn't time yet, but now he had everything he needed, and they had no idea what was coming. It took Landon months to put everything together. Every night, after work, he sat in his small apartment with nothing but his laptop, a cup of cold coffee, and quiet rage. He traced business records, followed money trails, matched donation receipts to fake charities his father's company claimed to support. It was all there: shady bookkeeping, shell non-profits, tax write-offs that made no sense. He didn't stop there. He filed Freedom of Information requests. He contacted his old caseworker under a fake name and got redacted documents from his time in foster care. He scanned everything: school records with the emergency contact line left blank, letters from the social worker stating no parents ever followed up, and, tucked between it all, the photo of his 10th birthday at the boarding school, alone at a table, a cupcake in front of him, no one else in the room. He created anonymous email accounts and burner phones. Then he made the packages, printed documents, financial spreadsheets, photos, timelines. He sent them to the IRS, 3 major news stations, and several of the corporations that sponsored his mother's influencer brand. No return address, no trace. Then he set the bomb online. He made a long Reddit post, carefully formatted. The title read, "This woman built her brand on family values. She abandoned her first son at 10. He uploaded school records, foster care notes, and screenshots of her influencer account, next to photos from his childhood. The teddy bear, the same picnic blanket, the birthday party themes reused. He posted the same content on YouTube with voiceover narration. He used old footage of her content to contrast with the truth. He created dozens of throwaway accounts and began tagging her official page. Everywhere she turned, the story was there. The next morning, it exploded. Thousands of views turned into millions. Comments poured in, some shocked, others furious. Her sponsors began pulling out. News reporters reached out. People reposted the story across platforms. Some influencers even made videos reacting to it. The hashtag number sign, abandoned by mum, trended for 2 days. Her smiling face, once known for parenting tips and brunch photos, was now tied to betrayal. Landon didn't watch the fall with joy. He wasn't smiling, but for the first time in years, he felt seen. He wasn't the lost boy anymore. He was the one who made sure they couldn't forget. The fallout was immediate. Within days of the expose going viral, the IRS officially opened an investigation into the finances of Carter and Pierce, the real estate firm run by Landon's father. Auditors began requesting records. Letters were delivered. Subpoenas followed. What started as whispers online had turned into real, tangible consequences. His mother's influencer deals vanished overnight. Brands that once praised her heartwarming family values deleted their past collaborations. Sponsorship posts were quietly removed. One company released a statement saying they had no knowledge of her past and were deeply disturbed by the allegations. Her comment sections turned toxic. People shared screenshots of her family posts and matched them with the childhood records Landon had leaked, the ones proving she left a 10-year-old boy behind at a boarding school and never came back. Her followers dropped by the thousands. Then the reporters came. First, they camped outside their gated neighborhood, then outside her favorite cafe. Local news vans parked near their house, their cameras rolling whenever anyone stepped out. Neighbors began asking questions. Parents at the school her younger children attended started whispering. Their perfect life was cracking at the seams. And through it all, Landon watched from a distance, anonymous, calm, invisible again. Only this time, he was the one pulling the strings. Then one morning, a message appeared in his inbox. No name, no signature, just a burner email address and a subject line that made his chest tighten. "We did it for your safety." He clicked it open. It was her. Not a long letter, just a few lines. She said she always feared he would grow up too much like his father, angry, unstable, too intense. She said they thought it was best to let him go, that they placed him with hope he'd be adopted into peace, that she looked at his photos sometimes, that she saw the hurt in his eyes and didn't know how to fix it. She said sorry, but it didn't sound like regret. Landon stared at the screen. For a moment, everything was quiet. He waited to feel something, anger, sadness, closure, but nothing came. He realized she wasn't trying to apologize. She was trying to rewrite the story, trying to paint herself as a frightened mother who had no choice, who meant well. It didn't work. He didn't reply. He closed the laptop, stood up, and looked out the window. The world outside moved on. Busy streets, people walking. No idea a storm had passed through someone's life. And for the first time, it wasn't his life collapsing. It was theirs. The coffee shop buzzed with quiet chatter, the hum of machines, the clinking of mugs. Landon sat at a corner table, hands still, eyes fixed on the door. She walked in slowly, sunglasses covering her eyes, her lips pressed into a nervous line. She looked smaller in person, older too, but still polished, still put together, like nothing had unraveled. She sat across from him, holding a paper cup, like it might steady her shaking hands. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. Then she started. Her voice was soft, rehearsed. She spoke about danger, about threats from his father's business, about people they owed money to, the kind of men who don't forgive. She said they had to disappear, said that leaving him behind was the hardest choice she ever made, but it was the only way to keep him safe. She said they always thought someone would find him, someone kind, that maybe it was better he grow up away from them, that he deserved better. She cried as she spoke, real tears. Her shoulders trembled, her voice cracked. Landon didn't say a word. He just watched her, quietly, coldly. When she finally fell silent, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small photo. He slid it across the table without a word. It was a school photo, a teenage girl with hazel eyes, soft curls, and a shy smile. Her hand rested at her collarbone, just enough to reveal a small pale mark under her neck. The same rare birthmark he had, same shape, same spot. His voice was calm when he finally spoke. "You didn't just leave me," he said. "You copied me." Her face crumbled. She didn't try to deny it. Her breath caught. Her hands dropped from the cup. "You were," she started, but the words barely came out. Then finally, she whispered, "You were a mistake. We couldn't fix it. That was it." The words hung in the air like smoke. Landon stood up slowly. His chair scraped against the floor. The coffee shop sounds continued around them like nothing had happened. He looked down at her, this woman who once called herself his mother. "You didn't lose me," he said low. "You gave me away." And then he walked out, leaving her at the table, surrounded by warmth and noise, but suddenly more alone than ever. He finishes what he started. After years of digging, hiding, and waiting, Landon sends the last package, this one to the prosecutors. It holds the strongest evidence: fake shell companies, forged donation receipts, hidden accounts. There's no more room for denial. Days later, the news breaks. His father is arrested in front of cameras. His mother loses her last major brand deal. Sponsors flee. The perfect family image shatters in real time. But Landon doesn't celebrate. He doesn't gloat. He just watches it all unfold quietly, from a distance. He keeps in touch with the girl, the daughter who shares his blood but not his memories. She's confused, angry, shaken. She starts asking hard questions at home, poking at stories that no longer make sense. She doesn't know everything, but she knows enough to stop believing. One evening, Landon finds an old envelope tucked deep in a worn folder. Inside is a crayon drawing, a child's hand, messy and colourful. It shows a smiling house, 2 stick-figure parents, and 1 small boy. The sun is huge in the corner. His name is written in crooked letters at the top. He stares at it for a long moment. Then, without a word, he takes it outside. He lights a match. The paper catches slowly, curling into soft, glowing ash. He watches it fall apart, piece by piece, until there's nothing left but smoke and silence. He doesn't forgive them. He doesn't want a reunion. There are no hugs, no final apologies, no going back. But he doesn't need those things anymore. Because this time, he wasn't the one left behind. This time, he's the one who walked away. Do you think Landon made the right choice by walking away, even after exposing everything? Or should he have let them explain and maybe tried to rebuild something? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. And if stories like this move you, don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new one.